Today on Deandrea Hamilton Presents.
And lots of these people are employed in the resort hotel industry. They have to go to work. They go to work.
I really love learning. And more than that, I'm a huge fan of sharing what I learn, especially if I believe it enhances the quality of life. Because who wants to live a life lacking in quality? So I'll show you the most interesting people, the most intriguing places, and the most impressive plans in and around our one Caribbean. Handpicked by me for a one-on-one chat sure to deliver on what matters most. My new show, Deandrea Hamilton Presents. Deandrea Hamilton Presents was filmed at Beaches, Turks and Caicos, an amazing all-inclusive luxury resort featuring 5 magnificent villages boasting the architecture and ambiance of Italy, France, the Caribbean, and Key West, all in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Thank you, Beaches, for your world-class hospitality. We are talking to Carlos Simons, a former Supreme Court Justice on the Turks and Caicos Islands, a KC, King's Counsel. Used to be a QC, but now we're a KC because we got a king in England. And of course that means he's an attorney at law, very astute attorney, a community leader, and certainly someone many people in the Turks and Caicos Islands look up to as knowing stuff. And so if you're going to bring anybody on to deal with something as delicate as informal settlements unit or informal settlements rather in the Turks and Caicos, someone who has to have the empathy along with just understanding the rule of law, I think you were an excellent choice, Mr. Simons. I think you were an excellent choice. Thank you for being on Deandrea Hamilton Presents. We love having you. And we just want to learn more about what is the ISU. It's the Informal Settlements Unit in the Turks and Caicos Islands, one of the newer entities in the country trying to get some things done that just need to be done, have been needing to be done for decades. This is a long history of work that has had to go. But so what did they give you in terms of your scope of work? What did they tell you got to do for them?
Well, before I get into that, before I get into that, please give me an opportunity to say what a wonderful job you are doing in covering topical issues in the Turks and Caicos.
Thank you very much.
You have your finger on the button and you get the right people when you need them.
Thank you.
So the Informal Settlements Unit, recently established as an agency of the government, is charged with containing the growth, proliferation of informal settlements in the TCI, and then reversing that trend. The difficulty with informal settlements, there are a number of difficulties. One, they're unsafe. They are built outside of the planning codes. They're built on land that does not belong to the persons constructing the structures.
Big problem.
Of course, you can never get a bank loan. You can never pass on title to your children. It's a huge problem. And so the Informal Settlements Unit is basically charged with containing, managing, and reversing that problem.
Yeah. You know, I come from the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. These are my two nations. All my life I've known about this situation of squatting and shanty towns, and the Turks and Caicos Islands has definitely, brushed that off and given it informal settlements, which has a more dignified sound for sure. I did not know until we sat with you, maybe it was last year, that only the Turks and Caicos Islands, in terms of British overseas territories, is experiencing this. I didn't know it was so unique to my two home countries.
2 points in response to that. Um, First of all, I said then it's on the Turks and Caicos, British overseas territories, but not Caribbean countries.
Sure, sure.
Because
The Bahamas would fall outside of that.
yes, and obviously you have that problem in the Bahamas. You also have that problem in other Southern Caribbean and former British territories, Trinidad, for example, Guyana, for example, Central Caribbean countries like Jamaica, for example. So we're not we may be the only British overseas territory that's afflicted,
Sure.
but not the only Caribbean country that's afflicted. So there we are. I don't want to distort
Sure.
that.
Sure. No, I'm just saying because it just never dawned on me that it just wasn't everywhere. You know, I just felt like it was something people who migrate can't maybe find or maybe decide, or maybe even residential people who are from the country.
Yeah.
They just feel like, well, I'm just going to take this piece of land. This looks nice. I can see the water. I can see the beach. It's arable. I can farm here. You know, to me, it's just like, man, you're bold.
Yeah.
Man, you're bold. And so now you're trying to rein this in, and it sometimes comes off, because I know this is a challenge, as maybe you're being inhumane. You're not considering how it hurts people. But you have, you also raised in that last meeting a lot of good points. The safety issue, you know, and the brazenness of it, but the safety issue. Talk to us about some of these concerns you have.
Well, you talked about the term informal settlements, which really is, as you suggested, a euphemism.
Yeah.
It comes out of United Nations literature.
Okay.
And it's a polite way of saying, you know, you're squatting.
Yeah, you're squatting.
Yeah. So, and the United Nations has published studies and literature on informal settlements. TCI is not the only country in the world, as you know, that's afflicted. The principal characteristics are construction outside of the planning
And building codes. And
codes,
things,
right? Including including density that is, you know, sometimes 4, 5, 6 times.
Just kissing. How's this just
Yeah,
kissing each other?
absolutely. I mean,
Just squash. You don't even pass me the butter. Pass me the sugar.
Yes, through the kitchen window. Yeah.
What is going on here?
And there are places in some of these settlements where, you know, houses are so closely built together that you simply have to turn sideways and shuffle down.
Yeah, shuffle down the little lane.
Yeah, exactly. And that's no good for public health.
No.
Particularly when you consider the way in which they go about disposing of domestic waste. You know, in some cases you have domestic waste flowing in open
areas.
Yes.
You can smell it. It's there. Children can get to it. Animals can get to it.
And they grow food, which is not good. And can you imagine this? And I think I said this to you on the last occasion. Suppose there's an outbreak of, you know, whatever you name the pandemic.
Yes.
The next one.
The next one.
And lots of these people are employed in the resort hotel industry. They have to go to work. They go to work. They
bring some of home with them.
And it could have.
And and honestly, in a tabletop exercise, you have to work out these scenarios as possible events, and then you go backward and you say, where did it all begin?
So those are the dangers. When you go back and you say, where did it all begin? A lot of places where you can point fingers.
Sure.
One of those, I must say, is irregular migration into the TCI, which has placed such a strain on available housing. I mean, there is no doubt that Providenciales in particular, and the TCI in general, has a severe housing shortage. So you will find that in many of these informal settlements, the persons occupying these structures are not necessarily persons who do not have status in the house. They rather have work permit, PRC, some of them are belongers, but they have nowhere else to live. And so the government has to be mindful of that. And in the containment exercises that we have engaged in, we have been very careful to not to displace persons unnecessarily. Indeed, in the Crown Land Ordinance, there is a provision which has been interpreted as you cannot demolish, and maybe I will say this with a caveat at the end. It has been interpreted as you cannot demolish a structure on Crown lands, on a Crown parcel, if it is occupied. Now, that does not mean that people are at liberty to build on Crown lands, because you can never acquire title to it. And if alternative accommodation is identified, you will be moved out.
We can eventually.
Exactly.
And then knock it down.
And the structure will be demolished.
So don't waste your money.
Don't, exactly.
Come on now.
Let's
do this thing.
Yeah.
Don't waste your money doing it.
Why
are you doing it? Because you're building on. It's like, okay, well, I have a 3-year time in here or whatever, and I'm just going to build on this piece of land. And they got a lot of our Crown land. You have some numbers. How much Crown land is occupied by what are labeled as informal settlements?
Well, I didn't come equipped with numbers and percentages and so forth, but they're somewhere in the region of 47 informal settlements throughout the TCI. Yes.
That's a lot.
Separate. Each can be separately identified.
47
particularly
pockets.
Particularly in Providenciales, in
Of
the
course.
main areas in Providenciales, as you might guess, the Bight, Five Keys, Blue Hills.
Blue Hills.
Yeah. Crown land is at a premium. What is unfair about the Crown land situation is that, as you know, you cannot acquire title, freehold title, to Crown land for commercial purposes. But these persons who are squatting on Crown lands are not only engaged in building residential structures, but also commercial structures. And
Chicken and fry shop.
The restaurant,
Tire
exactly,
shop.
the restaurants.
Fire numbers.
You saw the pictures.
Brazen.
Yes.
It's brazen.
Yeah. So that has to be stopped.
And it's not TCI like.
No.
It's outside of the culture of the country in terms of what these actually look like, how they are run and managed. It is not the style even of the country. And I often refer to that because that's important to the integrity of our culture.
It is.
And our way of life. And respect for that.
Respect for land ownership
Yeah.
and the principles of land ownership and obedience to the law.
Exactly.
So those are the difficulties that we are struggling with.
So you have to now, well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to hear what happens when Justice Simons has to tell people, okay, you need to move. How does that happen? How does he make sure that he's following the ordinance as he outlined himself? And how does he ensure that he is getting this land back into the hands of whom it rightfully belongs to? You're watching Deandrea Hamilton Presents.
How do I know if I am squatting on Crown land? If you do not have any official documentation from the land registry demonstrating your title to the land, it is likely that you are squatting. If you are unsure, you should check the property ownership records at the land registry or hire a professional surveyor or an attorney to determine the legal status of the land. It is essential to ensure you have the right to occupy and use the property to avoid legal issues. For more information, call the Informal Settlement Unit 344-0478 or visit their website and follow on their social media.
Elevate your healthcare experience with InterHealth Canada Turks and Caicos Islands Hospital's MyCare Corner portal and mobile application. Request an email registration invitation at mycarecorner@interhealthcanada.tc to enjoy personalized care features like appointment reminders, lab results, medical information, and secure messaging.
There is simply nowhere else in the Turks and Caicos Islands that you can find such a wholesome variety of your favorite fresh foods. There is simply nowhere else in the Turks and Caicos Islands that you can find such outstanding service. And there is simply nowhere else in the TCI to answer your every food craving in a chic, comfortable, centrally located store. That's a place you can trust. Number one is Graceway IGA. Fresh, service, trust for over 20 years.
Carlos Simons, KC, he heads up the Informal Settlements Unit of the Turks and Caicos Islands. It is a relatively new concept entity, and what a robust campaign he has run along with his team to make sure it's introduced to the public. It has some difficult work to do, but important work to do. And there is a procedure that he goes about in order to make that happen. When you talk about reclaiming this land, it can get pretty ugly and messy in some cases. He is an attorney at law by profession, and so I think that was a really big reason why he was identified. He would know how to navigate the nuances of the law and help people, warn people, and then just get the job done. Because that's what we expect of you, Mr. Simons. This is a very frustrating thing for people on all sides of the issue. What happens? When you sit in your office or in your room and your team gathers, because you have a team now, we'll talk about that soon, and you gather and you talk about, okay, we're moving now on to a phase where we will send out warnings. How does it work exactly?
Well,
what's the process?
Let me just make this distinction, because there is a distinction between Crown lands and privately owned lands.
Yeah.
Right? So far as Crown lands is concerned, I want to disabuse anyone who's listening to us or interested in the problem. That there is no such thing in the TCI as squatters' rights. You cannot acquire title to a parcel of Crown land by simply building a structure on it. And
that is a misconception.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think, that's possible.
So should I say, oh, shucks, no, I wasn't going to do it.
So you
can't do it.
You can't do it. You're a trespasser. From the moment you lay the first block until the last block is demolished, which
even if 7 years have passed, 10 years have passed,
10 years.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Wow.
You never get, So, like you said earlier, don't waste your money building structures on Crown lands. It will get demolished eventually. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe next week, but it will get demolished. And it's not something that you can pass on to your next generation. We try to take care that where residential structures on Crown lands, irregular, informal settlement structures on Crown, where they're occupied, we try not to displace people. And the reason we try not to displace is, one, because there is, as I mentioned, this provision in the Crown Land Ordinance which says the governor ought to consider alternative accommodation. And it's been interpreted the way I said. But also because, you know, if there are children or elderly or physically or mentally challenged people, you don't want to unnecessarily disrupt our lifestyles. And then where do they go? It's a human rights issue that we, you know, we try to ensure that we show some humanity in the application of the law. Notices, you asked about the process. In relation to Crown lands, notices are issued. If 30-day notices, usually, if they're not complied with, the Crown land and the building is not roofed over and occupied, the Crown lands unit engages private contractors to come in and remove the structure.
Knock it down.
Knock it down. That has been going on Crown lands.
Are they leaving in 30 days though? That seems tight.
Oh no, most of the time, you wouldn't believe it, most of the time, once the notices are served and they're coming up to their expiry date, people just move out.
Really?
Yeah, they do.
They just go?
Yeah. We have never had an instance where a person has stood in the front door and said, "You bring the bulldozer."
They are going.
They're leaving because they know that they've done something wrong and against the law, and it is right that they ought to move.
Just move.
Yeah.
How many structures have you been able to knock down, and how many acres have you gotten back? We have reclaimed there. I think the total number of acreage under informal settlement occupation numbered around 5,000 acres, public and private lands. And we have been consistently reclaiming these parcels for the Crown and for private ownership. And the percentage reclaimed so far is around 13 to 15%. Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've been working for what, about a year, maybe 18 months?
18 months.
About 18 months.
Yeah. Now, so far as private lands are concerned, the procedure is for the private landowner to issue a notice for the occupants to leave the property, because they, in that case, they're trespassers as well.
Right.
And the private landowners usually pay for the reclamation costs and indemnify the government against any claims.
Right.
The difference between private lands and Crown lands in this case is that a person can acquire title to a private land parcel by adverse possession.
Yeah. Meaning they can squat on your land and thief it.
Yes.
basically.
But it's a very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be there for, I think it's 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And you have to be there. The owner has to know that you're there, and
just did nothing about
and
it.
just did nothing about it.
So if you were hidden in the bushes, he has 20 acres, she has 20 acres, and you're somewhere in the middle of that, and then one day decide, I'm going to do a coconut farm, and they go to clear it down, and oops,
Yeah,
here you are in the middle of a mansion chilling.
exactly. Yeah,
You can't own this
you
land.
can't.
So
own
you
it.
can't have this little 8x8.
And even after the period of occupation is satisfied, you have to go to the land registry and register your title.
Wow.
It's
How do you do that?
almost impossible. So
So
again,
this is truly a waste of time.
so it is.
Yeah.
It is.
And money.
And I can only imagine that the reason people engage in it is through desperation.
Yeah.
And that is why we try to be as empathetic as possible
Yeah.
in bringing the law to bear on the situation.
We're going to take another break, and then we're going to have the head of the ISU talk to us about people who feel they have a right to stay.
As a man who loves spending time with family, does whatever it takes to keep my wife happy, and works hard to grow a successful business, it is important for me to stay on top of my game. With Flow's new family plans, I get to keep all my favorite things in one place. With 80 gigabytes of data to share with up to 4 family members and unlimited local anywhere talk and text, I get one bill that covers my entire family for as low as $60 per line and no surprise charges. All I had to do was add my home internet to my mobile, switch to Flow for more savings and more value. Flow helps me look out for my family's greatest needs, keep my customers happy, stay connected to everything I love, and have more time for the right things.
From the house opening to the deal closing and all that happens in between, we are real estate pros who never settle until our clients are settled. We know the school districts, the shopping districts, and the you gotta live there districts. Over 50 years ago, we put ourselves on the real estate map, then totally changed the landscape. Today, we're more than 140,000 strong, with each pair of hands building a legacy and shaping our tomorrow. This is our time, and this is our century.
The Informal Settlements Unit of the Turks and Caicos Islands has managed to reclaim about 15% of the land they intended to get, Crown land and private land combined. That is huge in 18 months, but they have been met with challenges. Nobody has thrown themselves in front of a bulldozer, thank God, but you have had people who say, wait a minute, we've been here for 20 years, we've been here for 10 years, this is the home I know, I don't think you have it right. We're not supposed to be moving. And this is after receiving what would be notice to vacate in 30 days. You've seen this happen, Justice Simons.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with it?
Well, you have to investigate what they say gives them the right to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So far as Crown Lands is concerned, there is no document that can be produced
Nothing.
to say, I'm entitled to stay here.
Wow.
I've been here for 10 years, I've been here for 20 years. You might have been there for 50 years. No, you cannot.
A realtor sold me this land. I paid the realtor my money.
Now, in relation to Crown Lands, that would be a fraud.
Yeah.
The realtor, imaginative realtor,
We don't know.
but would have committed a fraud.
Definitely.
We have come across situations like this, however, in the case of privately owned lands.
Right.
There are people who occupy privately owned lands who are able to produce receipts for the payment of monies for the lands that they occupy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the reasons why in November, December last year, we suspended land clearance exercises in Dockyard, for example. The idea was to be able to receive and analyze these receipts that showed money being paid and received, and so that people were not displaced from, like you say, the home they have known since childhood.
Yeah.
And a lot of these situations developed on these private land parcels. And I'm thinking particularly of Dockyard in the mid-1990s, from, as far back as the mid-1990s. It may have been that it was a subdivision that
Didn't materialize maybe the way the developer was thinking.
Exactly. The difficulty, though, is that in some instances, the lands that were sold by the private landowner were then subdivided by the purchaser, sold on again, and can you imagine?
That's messy.
It's a spider's web.
Wow.
Of
everybody trying to earn a dollar.
Yeah.
Just no thought about
right
where this is going to end.
That's
How
right.
do you untangle that? Can you?
We'll have to confront that at the proper, at the right stage.
In that case, though, those people are mostly in trouble because of the fact that their construction is not planning approved.
Well, they're both.
Both.
One,
Wow.
the parcel of land that they have purchased, and in some cases it's a 20-foot by 20-foot. Can you imagine that? But it's unregisterable,
Right.
right? And the structure on it has no planning approval. So they're wrong on two different very important counts.
Are you able to trace it back to the original salesman or salesperson?
Yes, we are, but it is not a matter that I would want to discuss.
Very interesting. I'll keep calling you on that one. But I get it. You're able to.
Yeah.
What I mean to say is, are these people even still around? So in some cases, they are still around.
In some cases, they're not still around.
Okay.
In most cases, they're not still around.
Yeah, because 1995.
Exactly.
Right.
But their successors and heirs are around. But the land has been alienated from them anyway.
Yeah.
So we have to bring to bear a solution that fits that problem.
Yeah.
And you mentioned staffing a moment ago, and we're hoping that the staff, when the unit is staffed up shortly, those are some of the skills that will be brought to bear on this situation.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the unit has a great deal of work to do.
This is a lot of work.
Yeah, there's, because even as we clear lands, you can imagine, other lands are being occupied.
Yeah, because it's like some they don't even care that you send a memo.
No.
Because like you say, they're desperate.
Yeah.
So you have to work with some other people to make sure that their area is covered so it lightens the load on what the ISU is trying to do. And this may mean housing, this may mean work permit, the people who are applying for work permits for people. Because isn't there something that says they need to provide housing? So we have breaches all around and at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of discussion about the extent to which developers, for example, ought to be reminded
Yep.
of the obligation to provide adequate housing for their employees.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think, TCIG will be looking very closely.
Yeah. It must.
Yeah.
It must.
Otherwise, the problem is going to fester. The more you pull down, the more.
Yeah, because even though the informal settlements unit is something government, there was a situation or is a situation on the ground literally that necessitates you being around. It really is one of those entities that you want to have to be able to retire it. Correct?
Yes, I mean the object of the exercise is for us to work ourselves out of a job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true.
So you got to eat your spinach and you got to eat your kale and you got to take all your vitamins because until they fix some other things, you will not be working yourself out of a job.
Exactly.
Because there is a great desperation. There is that strong pull, these pull factors I often hear government officials speak about, as well as the push factors
Yes.
in our nearby friends there in Haiti that they're just breaking away.
Yeah, well, the push factor has been very evident in the past months with all of the unrest
Yeah.
to the south.
And the one-day prime minister, I know we could talk about that another day. But yeah, you do have a lot of work to do. And when we speak next to Justice Simons, he's going to tell us about the team he's building. Even though he touched on it, we want him to flesh out a bit more how they will actually help the IFU.
From the house opening to the deal closing and all that happens in between, we are real estate pros who never settle until our clients are settled. We know the school districts, the shopping districts, and the you gotta live there districts. Over 50 years ago, we put ourselves on the real estate map, then totally changed the landscape. Today, we're more than 140,000 strong, with each pair of hands building a legacy and shaping our tomorrow. This is our time, and this is our century.
Moving money from one site to the next, lots of cash transactions make you vulnerable? Need eyes on your investments no matter where you are? Are you looking for professional security escorts for your high net worth guests? Want to support Neighborhood Watch with skilled patrols? Sounds like you need security solutions at Spence Security Services. Established in the Turks and Caicos since 1998. Get armored truck escort services from $150 and contact Spence Security for free consultation. Dependable, professional service you can trust. That's Spence Security. Deandrea Hamilton Presents was filmed at Beaches, Turks and Caicos, an amazing all-inclusive luxury resort featuring 5 magnificent villages boasting the architecture and ambiance of Italy, France, the Caribbean, and Key West, all in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Thank you, Beaches, for your world-class hospitality. We have had the wonderful pleasure. I always love talking to Carlos Simons. He is so funny, and I guess I love how legal professionals put things. They always have these really cool words. I always learn at least one new word every time I sit with an attorney. And he is in particular very gentle in how he puts things. So I see why they selected you to be a judge. Because see, someone like me, I might just say the wrong thing, be totally inappropriate, but you know how to send a message and massage the message so that it's well received, because there is a lot of empathy that is required in the work you're doing, as well as firmness. It's this balance you have to get right because of the mandate you have upon you. Informal settlements, we used to call them as little kids shanty town or somebody village. I won't say the country's name, but a somebody village. And these were things we saw as very odd. They didn't look like our neighborhoods, and they don't. They can be unsafe. In some cases, they can be home for decades, but regulation has to kick in to ensure that there's equity, safety, as well as general prosperity all around. It looks that way through and through and through the Turks and Caicos Islands. We talked about push factors out of nearby Haiti, which we know is embattled at this point. We talked about pull factors, Turks and Caicos needing a lot of professionals and even unskilled laborers, which gives a lot of times irregular migrants a place to be. And then that demand, that desperation. I need to live. I need a little, even if it's a plywood, I want it over my head. This is a little piece of land, nobody troubling it. I'm gonna set up shop right here and hang out here until they tell me to go. And this is what you're facing, but you're building a team. I saw you were pushing and asking, come on, be on board. You got your team. What kinds of people are these and what kinds of skills will they bring?
Well, we have a team that comprises skills in urban planning, which you can imagine will be very useful. Public health, again, very useful for the work that we're doing. The law, of course, surveying, valuations.
Wow, okay.
And we have made arrangements for those skills to be available to the ISU as they are needed.
Right.
And so there are provisions for example, if we need an urban planner for 6 months, we can have an urban planner for 6 months. If we need a land law expert, we can have that skill for 6 months, if that is the, and some of these people will be on location. You can imagine urban planning, for example. That is a skill that will be required on the ground. But and also valuation experts on the ground. But a lawyer, for example, looking at a particular legal problem, you know, the papers would be sufficient and can. So there's this flexibility of working remotely or on the ground.
Okay.
And so we're pretty happy with the outfit that we have engaged. They have experience in, I'm not allowed to say where they're based, but you will know in the not too distant future.
Sure, okay.
But they do have experience in dealing with informal settlement circumstances.
Okay, okay. Well, it sounds like you're on the go. You told us all you are. Just a couple of weeks ago, you sent out your release and said, we're on the go again.
Yeah.
And so congratulations for that. A lot of people would like to see some
And
closure.
can I just say,
Sure.
Can I just say this?
Yes.
Because you said on the go. And I just want to emphasize, yes, we are on the go. The suspension that was announced in November, December, that's over with.
It's lifted.
Yes. And the ISU has been very active in reclaiming lands, both private and public lands, over the past what it would be, 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You're doing it. You're getting it done.
Yeah.
And this must be a proud moment for you as well, because, you know, it's one of those ways you get to serve. We're paying you, but you get to serve. You get
Well,
to-
yes, I mean,
I hope they're paying you.
they are.
Okay, good.
But it is really very satisfying to
Yeah.
be able to, give back
Yeah.
to the, I don't want to get teary-eyed, but,
Yeah.
I love the Turks and Caicos,
We-
and I want to see us prosper.
Yeah.
I
I really sense that. I get that a lot when you talk about this project. So
Any-
I'm very happy for you.
anything that I can do to bring that about,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to contribute. Yeah.
Ta-da! This is Carlos Simons, really, really great guy, and I'm really happy to have had you here to talk to us about this. As we always promise, we want to bring you these intriguing people who have these wonderful opportunities to really flex their professional, patriotic muscles and help our countries of the Caribbean out, and we just think all of it just makes us a beautiful Caribbean.